Hello everybody and welcome back to another mod development showcase of Epic Proportions. Now this update, as you can see, obviously adds a new structure, and as you can see by all these chests, a lot of changes and new items. So without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we have the new items and blocks. So first off, we'll start with the blocks. We have two blocks, being the compressed iron block and ultra dense iron block. These will be more important later, but it's just what they look like right there. Um, and we also here, if we open this chest, we have a variety of new items and other things of the sort. So first off, we have the big hammer, which if you look at it, lives up to its name. It's quite large. And when you swing the weapon, um, you can see that this area of effect damage to everything nearby, which means that it is a pretty good weapon for clearing out areas. Next up, we have the thud, which is like the big hammer, but slightly larger. And this one does a very similar thing, except it can hit things from further away. Also, this is not like Big Bertha or the Royal Guardian Sword with their special abilities. This one triggers every single attack. So if I go over here, you can see that I start swinging it. They all just start dying as I come over. And it has some extra range and a good amount of knockback, which I can showcase further in a moment. Next up, we have the Summoner's Staff, which little skeleton skull on a stick. And this one I will show more in a, well, no, I'll show right now what it does. I'm actually going to go and grab this back real quick as well. So right here, you can see that when you left click with it, it will summon in 4 minions. And if I'm in survival, they won't attack me. But if I were to spawn in this, they'll attack it for you. So it's pretty nice. And then if I were to, say, have a weapon like this that does area damage, it won't affect them. If you were to hit them head on, it still will kill it. And if I were to punch one of them, they would start coming after me. But they aren't the strongest. They are around the same as the skeleton mercenaries right here. But if I put on this, the Summoner's Cloak, which, as you can see, looks a little bit different than some of the other armors, and I do the same thing, you'll see that I also get one stronger skeleton minion as well. He's got the fortified iron sword and some diamond gear, and he is a bit stronger when it comes to combat. And it's the same deal with him. He won't take damage from the area of effect, which includes things like the Big Bertha custom attack. And as you can see, I'm doing damage with an 80 damage weapon, so they die pretty quick to that. Also, you can use this. This does 5 damage, right? But its durability is very low. So as you can see, just from killing one, it will take a lot of damage. But if I put those away, next up we have, this was originally just a debug tool to kill bosses and stuff, but I decided to make it into a weapon. And this is slightly overkill. This is the Sword of Fallen Gods, is what I decided to call it. There are a couple of skeleton mercenaries. I'm just going to run away for a second. And, yeah, it's got a 25 block radius. This one is not something that you can obtain in survival. All the other weapons are. This one is just for people who want to mess around with it in creative mode. But put all that stuff back. Next up, we've got changed items, which first off, we've got the Royal Guardian leggings, which, if you remember, used to give used to give regen 6, which was absolutely insane and made you practically immortal. Now it gives regen 3, and I've also reworked the entire effect system specifically for this piece of armor, just so that it's a um, little bit more usable and is a lot more like, it has a lot better performance, so that more underpowered devices can run the game more smoothly. Next up, we've got the Corrupted Obsidian Sword. This thing has, it was way too strong at 150 damage, and I nerfed it down to 125. But then, as you're going to see in a moment, I changed the recipe for Corrupted Obsidian. So I nerfed it again to 115 attack damage, which makes something like a giant right here still will die in 2 hits, but something larger will be a lot harder to kill, like you will see in a moment. Also, the giant sword is still here. I'm probably going to remove that pretty soon. Next up, we have the entire Corrupted Obsidian set. Now, this is also just because Corrupted Obsidian is going to be easier to get now, but if I put all this on, it's all the same in terms of durability and stuff, but now it gives, instead of resistance 4 with the chest plate, it gives resistance 3. And the helmet and boots both give resistance 1, and the leggings give resistance 2. So, all in all, it's just slightly worse now. Next up, we've got recipes. So I'm just going to take all this stuff, head over to this crafting table, and first up, if I just take a bunch of blocks of iron like this, we'll get the compressed iron block. I'm also going to take those real quick. And if we take 9 of those, we get the ultra dense iron block. Now, I'm going to make 3 of those. And now, first up, we've got, for weapons, we've also got the big hammer, which is made with 3 compressed iron blocks and 2 oak planks, or any type of planks, actually. And then you should be able to do the same with the thud, just with ultra dense iron blocks, which, this weapon does like 200 and something damage with the AoE. I haven't implemented, a description for how much the AoE does and its range and its knockback and all that yet, but I will do that sometime soon, hopefully. And this one, it does a lot of damage, and it's one of the better weapons in the game, but it costs somewhere around 1,500-ish iron to make, as far as I remember, so it's quite expensive. And Corrupted Obsidian now can be crafted, instead of netherite blocks in the middle surrounded by crying obsidian, now it's netherite ingots surrounded by crying obsidian for a Corrupted Obsidian. Or you can use regular obsidian, because crying obsidian's a little bit harder to get. Not too much, though. But anyways. Next up, the tower dungeon, which is the tall, kind of thin one with 3 floors, can no longer give you any Royal Guardian gear, which is a nerf to it, especially early game. You can't just get really good, gear from it anymore. These 3 items are the ones that you can't get anymore: the Royal Guardian helmet, Royal Guardian boots, and the Royal Guardian sword handle, which are the 3 that you could get from it in the first place. Just gonna put this stuff back in here, and now the castle dungeon chest, which this is the floating one in the sky, the massive castle. This one, you can no longer get the Royal Guardian helmet, chest plate, leggings, sword handle, or sword blade. but you can still get the boots from this one, so there is still a chance to get some of the gear, just not much of it. And this one's actually meant to be in this chest. In the one singular barrel in the bottom of the dungeon, you can no longer get the helmet, leggings, or blade of the Royal Guardian set. And the Big Bertha blade, you still can get it, but it now will also have a chance to generate in the third floor of this one over here, which the floors actually go top to bottom. So the top floor is floor 1, middle one's floor 2, bottom one's floor 3. And you'll see why in a moment. Now, if I come over here to mobs, first off, these two, the Skeleton King and the Golden Apple Cow. So the Skeleton King has gotten some buffs in terms of it'll now spawn its summons. It'll spawn its summons more often, and it will do more damage. It'll summon its summons more often and deal more damage with its slam attack. And the Golden Apple Cow has had no changes in terms of balancing or anything, but its model is now just a bit nicer looking, and is my best job at recreating the ore spawn one. So, next up, if I just put these away, next up we have the Enchanted Golden Apple Cow, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's just the same thing, but with like a little glint over it. And it does exactly what you guess. If I just remove this, you can see the drops. You've got some leather, some apples, an enchanted golden apple, a golden apple, and some raw beef. And if you kill it, you're not just guaranteed to get those drops every time. You can get more or less. Like that time I got multiple enchanted golden apples and multiple golden apples, so it's just random. I'm just going to put all this stuff away. Next up, we have the two types of skeleton minions that you've already seen. I'm actually going to get a different weapon to kill these because this one doesn't actually deal damage. It's just an AoE attack that does all the damage. Also, none of the minions drop any XP or loot so that you can't just farm them infinitely. Because that would be a little too overpowered. Next up is the Thunder Boom, which actually I'm going to go over here and grab the Royal Guardian set for, and you'll see why very soon. Going to head over here, put on the entire set, set my game mode to survival. You can see also the regeneration is a lot slower, but I spawned this in. It's extremely fast, and it will explode and put fire everywhere, which I just stupidly walked into. Can spawn in another one. You'll see it'll run right over and explode. If you're right in the center, it'll do a lot of damage. But if I just put all this back up there, next up we have the Skeleton Guard, which is like an even better version of the skeleton warriors or mercenaries. This one, you can see it's got the yellow eyes, it's wearing the Royal Guardian helmet and boots, and it's got fortified iron gear for the rest of it. And it's a bit tankier. You can see I'm swinging with the thud right here, which is one of the better weapons, might I add. And it's taken quite a few hits. And in terms of drops, it does not drop any gear. Because the only place that it spawns is inside of those, where you can get the gear anyways. Next up, we have the Royal Summoner, which this one I'm also going to go into survival for, and I'm actually going to grab the Royal Guardian Sword out of here as well, real quick. Okay, so this one will run away from you. Like if I go near him, he will sprint away and he'll summon in a bunch of mobs to try and murder me. So you can obviously try and kill him, but these guys are fairly strong. Your best bet for these guys is going to be an area of effect weapon so that you can kill them all like that. Which obviously is better than a single target weapon like the Royal Guardian Sword. Next up, though, we have the exact opposite with the Withering Giant, which is a bigger and stronger version of the Giant, and also basically just a Wither Skeleton. But, of course, with your Fortified Iron Sword here, red eyes, and of course it's much larger. So if I go into survival here, you can see that something like the Thud, despite usually knocking things back quite far, will not knock this guy back much at all. While in the Royal Guardian Sword or Big Bertha will do much better against him because of their higher damage. Like if I'm attacking him like this, I can keep him at bay for the most part. But these guys can also spawn in groups, which something like this for the higher damage is often going to be a little better. At least one-on-one with them. So you can see there that my HP bar actually went down a little now, thanks to the lower regen. And they have, as you saw, a decent amount of knockback resistance, which means that most weapons won't knock them back as far. But one that can knock it back extremely far is the Big Bertha, because if I use the special attack here, if he is not in the way of the chest, he will go back quite far, and then you'll be able to two-shot it for the rest of it. Also, something that I should point out is all items, if you have multiple of them, I'll just grab like 2 of these. As soon as you activate the cooldown on one of them, like I do a sweep attack here, you can see down in my hotbar that both of them have the cooldown so that you can't just swap back and forth. Same with the Summoner's Staff, the Royal Guardian Sword, all of them. But now is a good time to go and look at the dungeon. When you step on those, it'll teleport you up into the first floor of the dungeon. Here is where the skeleton guards can spawn, like this. And you have, all 3 of the floors have different chests with different loot. So this one you can see has the Royal Guardian helmet in here, enchanted golden apples all over the place, and hardened iron ingots and some bread. If I go to the next floor, you'll see a lot of the summoners, so it's good to bring some AoE damage, so that you can kill these guys' summons. But in this one right here, you can get things like the chest plate as well, enchanted golden apples, Royal Guardian Sword handle, and here's the blade and the helmet. Now on the other side here, you'll go down and you'll see that there are some of these big guys. So you're gonna need to be able to do a lot of damage. Just gonna kill some of these guys real quick. Get them out of the way, and break the spawners. In these ones, there's another blade, another helmet, another blade, and another helmet. I swear that's not all that they can spawn. They can give you anything from the Royal Guardian set, and as you saw, it is quite common. And then also in this bottom floor right here, these chests can also have the Big Bertha blade, but not the handle. So you have to go to another type of dungeon, like the castle dungeon, to get the handle for it. But I believe that that will be all for this update. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later.